Okay guys, so in this video, I'm going to go over some of the questions that I have for today's worksheet. So notice that we have this map here, and this is the same map as the one that you were given in class. Notice we have different points on the earth. We have A, B, C, and D. Now, with that said, let's consider that just like we learned in class, this is the equator, and this has 0 degrees in latitude. Now there's another line that has 0 degrees, and this is called the prime meridian, which is actually here. 0 degrees prime meridian, degrees and 0 degrees in longitude. Now let's look at some of the questions that we have here for this worksheet. Notice that I want to do, for one of the questions, let's do, it asks for what is the latitude and longitude of question A. So for question A, let's focus in here. Notice that it happens to be on one of the longitudes, but it's not necessarily in one of the latitudes. So let me put a line here. This is latitude, just like we know it separates the north and the south. So this is the line that we are looking at. Now notice we don't really know what's happening, but this is 0 degrees and this is 30 degrees. So we know from here this is going to be 0 and this is going to be 30. So we must choose what it would look like. Now in this case we're not really sure because you can kind of divide or separate it into 3 different parts. So you can imagine like here would be 10 and then here will be 20 because this is 30. So in fact we also need another line. In fact, for this one, let's just say we have something like, let's say 27 degrees, for example. Now in this case we also need another line. So in this line we have, this is happens to be in that specific line, which it's actually 100 degrees longitude. So let's say for this example I decided to put A is equal to 27 degrees north, and this is because the latitude is 27, although I would say it looks like something maybe smaller, but you can say this is just an example here. I didn't really specifically. Also, it's kind of like not easy to pick a number because the numbers are so big from 0 to 30. But this one here, it's 100 degrees longitude. It happens to be exactly on top of that line. So for this ones, you can also do the other questions that we have for the ones that you can do B, C, D, which by the way, if you guys look at D here, notice it exactly falls in one of the lines, because what's the latitude here for D? Well, look at cross. Latitude is the line that goes across, so it's 60 degrees. So you would say something like 60 degrees north, right? Because this is the equator, and it's the equator, so eventually it would go 60 degrees to the north. Now, if that case, that's the latitude. We start with latitude, but then what would be east or west? So, well, this is a 0. What do you think it's going to be D? Is it on the east part or the west side? If this is 0 and this divides the west from the east, well, it's going to be 60 degrees, but that is going to be east. Anyways, I'm going to move on to the next questions, which happen to be about New York State. So this is where you need your reference table, page 3. You should look at something like this. So this is a map of New York State. Now you haven't looked at this a lot and you probably don't know what's happening. But notice that all of these numbers, like this one, 43, 44, 45, 42, all of these are actually numbers that connect. So like from here, from 43, you follow with the line, you would connect with 43. The 44, you would connect with the 44, and so on, 45 with 45. Those happen to be the latitude. And the same thing applies to the other numbers, which are 76, for example, you connect it to 76, and then 77, you connect to 77. So you will get all these lines. So this is, for example, I'm connected with some of the lines, although I didn't finish because it has to keep going here. So these are the same thing. We have those lines that stretch from side to side. These are the latitudes, and these lines that go from top to bottom, that will be the longitude. Let's look at some of the questions. So in some of the questions, for example, looking at number 6, it says list the coordinates for Syracuse to the nearest minute. Notice that it's asking for Syracuse. All of these are cities in New York State. The first one happens to be Syracuse. So let's do number 6 together. So let's do number 6 together. Let's do number 6 together. Syracuse is actually on one. Let's go back to the map here. So if you guys look at the map here, we have, where's Syracuse? Can you find it? All of the cities should have a name. This happens to be Syracuse right here. Notice that in Syracuse, so it's actually right here. So it's not necessarily in that same line of latitude, but it's nearby. I want to come back to this sign right here because from 1 degree to another degree, there are 60 minutes. So which means that from, let's say, from this degree, which is 43. So by the way, I recommend you that you actually connect all the latitudes and all the longitudes with a ruler so that you know where the lines go by. So you should do that in your reference table. Now, from 43, which is this line, this latitude line, to 44, which happens to be this latitude line, there are 60 minutes. So which means you need to, so like if I was to have a point right here, that would be half. So half of 60 is 30. So if I had a city right here, this would be 30 minutes. So this would be, for example, 43 degrees and 30 minutes. That case right here. Now, for this one specifically, let's do Syracuse. So Syracuse is right here. Notice that's the latitude, and the longitude also doesn't fall on this one, which is 76, although it's really close. It's almost there. So for this one, you should say something like, for example, it should be in the 43 latitude, but for the minutes, it's more specifically. So if this is like 30 minutes, you can say this is like 20 minutes, 10. So this looks like it's 43 minutes. I'm sorry, 43 degrees to the north because this is a 43 degrees latitude. And you would have something like, let's say, 5 minutes because again from this line of latitude to this line you have 60. Now let's do the longitude. Longitude should be this line, so we know it's going to be 76 because this is 77. It's going to be 76, but it has to have some minutes. It's the same thing. If you divide it in half, it would be like 30 minutes. But let's say this is 20, then you have something like 10 right here. So the answer would have to be something like 43 degrees north, 5 minutes. That's for the latitude, comma, 76 degrees, 9 minutes. That will be the longitude. So you should have something, that would be the example for Syracuse, for example, because it's right here. So for the rest of the questions for this handout, you need to find the cities and you need to specifically put the degrees, but also the minutes, considering that from each degree to another degree, there are 60 minutes. So with that said, if you guys have any questions, you can always send me a message, but this video should help you. And again, in order to be successful in the assignment, you need to connect all the latitudes, all from, so like this one to this one, and all the latitudes and also the longitudes in your map. With that said, I will see you guys on the next time. Okay? Goodbye. Thank you. Huh? Yeah. Latitude.